5 p.m. Good evening and welcome to the March 2022 meeting of the Omaha Public Power District Board of Directors. Thank you all for joining us remotely via WebEx and at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center. I hope you and your loved ones are staying safe and healthy. With me virtually today are my fellow board members, Sarah Howard, Janice Mulhop, Mary Spurgeon, Eric Williams, and Rick Yoder. Mike Kavanaugh and Craig Moody are unable to attend this evening. We will also have President and CEO Javier Fernandez, our General Counsel Steve Bruckner with the Fraser Stryker Law Firm, and members of our board meeting support staff. OPPD's executive leadership team and subject matter experts also are participating in today's meeting remotely. Additionally, we currently have 8 attendees on this WebEx, consisting of OPPD employees and members of the public, and 1 member of the public at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center. As a reminder to board members, executive leadership team, and OPPD staff, please mute your microphones to reduce background noise. To members of the public, thank you for attending. You are in listen-only mode. If you have any technology questions, please use the chat feature in WebEx to communicate with the event host. If you are disconnected from the WebEx conference, we ask that you rejoin in the same manner as when you originally joined. I will now ask President Fernandez to provide the safety briefing and a member of the OPPD Physical Security Team to provide a safety briefing at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center.
Thank you, Chair Bruckner. I'm going to ask Josh if he can proceed with the physical safety briefing first. Josh Clark, if you're available, or someone from our safety team. Well, while they get to the microphone, let me just be agile here. Let's go to the other.
I can do it if you'd like.
Well, someone at the Douglas.
Okay.
Corporate Security, we're here.
Great, thank you.
Apologize for the delay. Okay, for the safety briefing here, we have fire alarms located in the exterior wall of the meeting rooms. Fire suppression materials located in the stairwell exit, the southeast corner of the room. AED and first aid equipment located in this room with us, as well as in the stairwell outside of the room. Emergency exits are the stairwells listed above in the main entrance room. In the event of a tornado or severe weather, we'll be ushered by security personnel to a level A of the parking structure. Do not use the elevators in case of a fire. And if you have a medical condition, please write it down or tell your meeting neighbor if you're here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me continue with the safety briefing for those of us who are remote. Physical safety is always important. It's a priority, top priority for OPPD. I'm going to ask for those of us who are listening or participating remotely to please, if you're not feeling well or if you have a medical condition that needs attention, before you get to that point, I encourage you to make sure that someone on this call has information to help you. If you're alone in your office or at home, make sure that someone participating on the call has either a phone number or an address that they can use to assist you should you ever need that help. Also, make sure that take a moment if you're in a public building to find out where the AED defibrillators are, and even if you're at home, if you have fire extinguishers, first aid kit, make sure that you have identified those, that you have also identified and ideally walked through the emergency exit that you would take if there was a case of an emergency. The last thing you want to do is walk through that path during the emergency for the first time. In the case of if you're in a building with elevators, please refrain from using those during a fire. Use a stairwell instead. And we are not expecting severe weather tonight, but we are getting to that point in the year. So please make sure that you at all times you know exactly what to do, where to shelter in place in case of severe weather. And I will ask you also consider your plan if there's an armed or hostile intruder to make sure that you remember that at OPPD we have a policy to run, hide, or fight. And if you're in an OPPD facility, we use code 32 to alert people about a hostile intruder or armed intruder. To the right of the screen, we have psychological safety reminders. As I did on Tuesday, I will do that again today. Focus on number 4, which is give everyone a voice. Show people you value them, not only by allowing, but also by encouraging them to contribute ideas or ask questions. Some of us are naturally extroverted, and we are typically the ones who are speaking at meetings and share ideas, but not everybody has the same the same affinity for speaking up. So I ask you to please encourage those who are typically not very vocal to speak up, so that we could have a psychological safe environment. With that, Ms. Sinners, if you could go to the next slide, please. Our current safety focus continues to be sprains, strains, and tears. I've said this a few times already. The most common injury that we face at OPPD is soft tissue injury, either by sprains, strains, or tears. And so having the appropriate warm-up before executing any physical job is important. Having a good ergonomic position is incredibly important as well. Number 2, we continue to improve hazard management. Hazards are really valuable, especially when we identify them ahead of time, and we can remove the hazard to the extent possible so that it never becomes a problem. And the third one is March is Workplace Eye Wellness Month. This is a good opportunity for us to remember healthy vision is crucial for productive work, independence, and the quality of life. Workplace hazard exists for employees in the field, especially, and those in the office. So when required, we encourage you, and we require OPPD employees to use the appropriate protective equipment. In this case, would be goggles or protective glasses. And that concludes my safety briefing, Chair Bogner.
All right, thank you. Now let's run through our guidelines for the conduct of the meeting. This regular board meeting will follow the agenda made available to the public on OPPD.com. This meeting is being conducted via WebEx events and is being recorded. Our board meetings have public comment periods on the agenda. Comments made by all parties during the meeting are part of the official public record. After board discussion on each pending matter, I will ask for public comment before bringing the matter to a vote. Also, before we adjourn, there will be an opportunity to comment on any other matters of district business. We will take comment via WebEx and from the Omaha Douglas Civic Center. Let's first review the 2 options for WebEx attendees to notify us. Option 1, which is being displayed now, involves sending the meeting technology host a message using the chat feature, simply stating that you wish to speak. Ms. Henners?
Thank you, Chair Bogner. For those who have joined us using a computer or WebEx mobile app, you will find a button in your WebEx interface to open the chat panel. Once opened, you may send your request to the meeting technology host. Requests to provide comments will be relayed to Chair Bogner for recognition during the public comment section.
Okay, option 2, which is being displayed now, involves the hand raise feature. Ms. Henners?
WebEx allows attendees to virtually raise their hand. You may use this feature to indicate to OPPD that you wish to be recognized to provide comments. The hand raise button can be found in the lower corner in the lower control bar of WebEx. After you have provided your comments, please press the hand raise button again to virtually lower your hand. And for those who have joined the meeting using only a telephone, WebEx has a hand raise feature that is activated by pressing *3 to raise and lower your hand. When we see your hand raise, we will acknowledge you by referencing a portion of your phone number. For example, caller with the phone number beginning in 402-123. If you wish to provide comments when recognized, please wait a brief moment to be unmuted and begin speaking. And at this time, if you would like to try using the hand raise feature, you may do so as a test.
I'll allow plenty of time at each opportunity for public comment for members of the public to provide notification via WebEx. When I call on a member of the public to speak, our meeting technology host will unmute your microphone. Before commencing your comments, I suggest you first affirm that we can hear you. Please state your name and address and state the name of any organization or person you're representing. Organizations should choose one representative to speak on their behalf. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending at the discretion of the board. To assist you, we will display a timer on the WebEx screen to ensure each member of the public receives a consistent amount of time. Ms. Henners will signal you when 30 seconds remain, as well as when time is up. For in-person attendees, if you wish to make a comment, please line up behind the microphone. Please state your name, address, and the name of any organization or person you represent. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending. To assist you, we will use the timer that will be displayed on the screen. Ms. Henners will signal you when 30 seconds remain, as well as when time is up. Please direct your comments to me. I will either respond to you directly or defer response to another board member or officer of the district. The board values and welcomes civil, respectful, clear, and concise communication from the public. During public comments, speakers should refrain from repetitive, profane, or irrelevant comments. Speakers shall refrain from polling the board, as such vote is not on the agenda and prohibited by law. If you have written materials, please email them to Ms. Henners at mfhenners, that's MSHINNERS, at OPPD.com, and she will receive them on our behalf. For those at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center, please hand your materials to Scott Foch. In summary, we will take WebEx comments first, then in-room comments, then have a last call. Ms. Henners, will you please take the roll call?
Bogner.
Here.
Director Kavanaugh is absent this evening. Director Howard. Director Mulhoff.
Here.
Director Moody is also absent this evening. Director Spurgeon. Present. Director Williams.
Here.
Director Yoder.
Here.
Notice of the time and place of this meeting was publicized by notifying the area news media, by publicizing same in the Omaha World Herald, OPPD Outlets newsletter, OPPD.com, and social media, by displaying such notice on the arcade level of Energy Plaza, and by emailing such notice to each of the district's directors on March 11th, 2022. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available for inspection on OPPD.com and in the meeting room. The consent agenda items for this evening are as follows. Item 6, approval of the February 2022 meeting minutes and the March 17th, 2022 agenda. Item 7, SD 14 Retirement Plan Funding Monitoring Report, Resolution number 6492. If there are no corrections, changes, or additions to the consent agenda items, I need a motion and a second to approve.
I move we approve.
Second.
All right, we discussed these action items at the all-committee meeting on Tuesday, March 15th. Do any members of the public have comments on these consent agenda items? If you would like to make a comment, please send a chat to the meeting host or use the hand raise feature in WebEx. Telephone users can press *3 to raise their hand. In-room comments, sorry. Ms. Henners, do we have any requests to chat via WebEx?
I see David Corbin has his hand raised.
All right, Mr. Corbin.
And give me a moment to bring the timer up.
Hear me?
We can, thank you.
All right, thank you. David Corbin, 1002 North 49th Street, Energy Committee Chair of the Nebraska Sierra Club. I was glad to see that ESG was brought up at the committee meetings, but it seemed to me that the discussion was to OPPD's approach was incidental rather than intentional. To quote Blackstone, that has $881 billion in assets under management, quote, Blackstone believes that environmental, social, and governance principles are crucial to developing strong, resilient companies and assets that deliver long-term value for our investors, end quote. In the discussion, it was implied that ESG was not in your strategic directives, yet as far as the environment part of ESG goes, you have the words environmentally sensitive in your mission statement, and OPPD, as we all know, is currently engaged in the pathways to decarbonization. So in short, I would hope that your retirement investing in the future would reflect your mission and projects and take ESG more into account. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for those comments, Dr. Corbin. Are there any other requests to chat?
I do not see any additional hand raises. And Brent, can you confirm that you've received any chats or not?
I have no chat requests.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Would any attendees in person in the Civic Center like to make comments at this time? If you would like to, please approach the podium. All right. Ms. Sanders, please call roll.
Wagner,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Mulhoff,
Yes.
Moody, oh, I'm sorry, Spurgeon,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. So this at this month's meeting, we don't have any board action items. And so the next up on our agenda here is the president's report. Mr. Fernandez.
Great, thank you, Chair Bogner. So starting with our traditional reporting of baseload generation, the month of February was an interesting month. We had capacity factors on Nebraska City 1, 2, and North Omaha Unit 4, all in the mid 60% range. The interesting thing here is that we did not experience any major outages on either one of those three units. We did experience a small outage on North Omaha 5, which explains the lower capacity factor of 56%. The main driver for the lower than usual capacity factors across all these units, it really has to do with congestion. And this is part of this is the damaging effects that we had after the December storm with tornadoes touching ground in our service territory and in Idaho and other parts of the region. The region is still recovering. They're still building back transmission infrastructure, which means that there's a lot more congestion happening in the region, especially when you know, all resources are contributing at the same time. In this case, wind production and baseload generation coming online at the same time. So that's really what explains the lower than usual capacity factors. But happy to report that for the month of February, for the most part, all of our coal baseload generation units were in healthy status. Now we're going into the spring outage period, and so very likely next month you will hear me report about the outages and how those are going. And these are planned outages as we get ready for the summer peaking season. Next slide, please. Our peaking generation, or as I like to start calling it now, it's our balancing generation. This generation doesn't always it's not always on just on peak. It's really for balancing all of these other resources that we have on our system. It was pretty low. You know, you can see here on the screen, Cass County, Jones Street ran very, very little, 0.3% of the available time. Our North Omaha units 1, 2, and 3 typically don't run during the winter because there's not enough natural gas to run them typically, as people are using that natural gas to heat homes. Sarpy County had a little bit higher capacity factor of 2.1%. This is not atypical. We expect our balancing or peaking stations to start running, and they will continue to run probably a little bit more here in the months of March, April, and May as those shoulder months come in with high renewable penetration, and our balancing stations are maybe called in a little bit more to balance that our renewable fleet. Next slide, please. February renewables, as I explained just now, renewable energy contributed 41.6, almost 42% of OPPD's retail energy sales for the month of February. Wind capacity factor of 54%, or just shy of 54%. The wind blows strong in Nebraska in our service territory, and that is certainly the case in February. It's something that we expect, and it's really rewarding to see that our expectations, our plans for renewable generation come to fruition as we plan them. Capacity factor for a community solar facility up in Fort Calhoun was just shy of 20%. Again, strong performance from all of our assets, from base load to balancing to renewable generation. Next slide, please. I would like to thank, last month I talked about the event. I tried to do a little bit of advertising for the event for Heat the Streets. It was a fantastic event, successful. I want to thank all sponsors, donors, and everyone who registered for the 15th annual Heat the Streets. Volunteers who helped with this event. We had co-chairs, Director Craig Moody, along his wife Emily, as well as Director Jim Begley from MUD, and his wife Rebecca. Just to recap, we had 639 registrants. We had representations from 8 states, so a lot of people signed up from other states as well. Over $151,000 was raised, and this includes in-kind and monetary donations, sponsorships, and registrations. Over $70,000 of these will go directly to OPPD's Energy Assistance Program, which means that approximately 218 households across OPPD service territory will be available to receive assistance with funds raised from this event. So if you missed the event and would like to continue to support OPPD's Energy Assistance Program, this was not your only chance. You can always do that. And if you want to do so, you can visit oppd.com/donate. Next slide, please. So these, I have a few slides here. The next three slides are about upcoming community outreach events. The first one is on Friday, April 8th at Peru State College. We will have the Connecting the Dots, which is a partnership with Nebraska 4-H and Extension Office. This is where it is an interactive career exploration simulation program, and it's designed to help 9th and 10th graders to learn more about careers of interest. Through this experience, participants explore how to connect the dots from early high school through post-secondary education and training to the workplace. The next one here is Earth Day Omaha. Will be celebrated on Saturday, April 23rd at Elmwood Park. Our product development and marketing team will promote our new Greener Together program that was discussed on Tuesday, as well as sharing electric vehicle opportunities, programs, and rebates. So mark your calendars for April 23rd. And just 6 days later, on Friday, April 29th, we will celebrate Arbor Day at the Lauritsen Gardens in Omaha. And our forestry teams will be on hand to talk about planting the right tree in the right place. And there will be different activities for kids as well. This is important as we remember the storm we had on July of last year. There was a lot of discussion about the wrong trees planted in the wrong places, which eventually, after many years, caused a lot of outages. So it is in all of our best interest to have good information about forestry, planting the right trees in the right places for a bunch of reasons, but especially for us here, to help with restoration and outage management. And the last item here on this slide, we have Habitat for Humanity and OPPD. We will have this Rock the Block event in Blair. So this year we're going up to Washington County in Blair on May 7th. Similar to previous events that we've had in North and South Omaha in 2019, is prior to the pandemic. Our volunteers, OPPD volunteers, will work with neighbors on various exterior home and yard improvement projects. This is a favorite for OPPD employees and volunteers. We usually run out of spaces. We fill up really quick. So I encourage all of you who are interested in participating to sign up soon, because spaces run out. We can only accept so many volunteers. Next slide, please. These are two upcoming events. One on the left is the Omaha Chamber Young Professional Summit, or YP Summit. These will take place just a couple of weeks from today on March 31st at the CHI Health Center. OPPD is a proud partner with the Omaha Chamber, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but this Omaha Chamber Young Professional Summit is the largest young professionals conference in the country. And it's been happening here in our backyard through the sponsorship of the Omaha Chamber of Commerce, which is something we're very proud of being partnered with them. This summit brings together about 1,500 or plus young professionals for a day of education, inspiration, and connection. This year's theme is going to be middle of everywhere, and it will help attendees identify key actions that they can take to help strengthen their community support and their own initiatives, their own future success. I'm going to go on the right-hand side. For the Cinco de Mayo parade, we have a festival that runs from Friday, May 6th to the 8th. The parade is actually on Saturday, May 7th. It's on the historical South 24th Street. There's going to be live music, entertainment, carnival rides, etc. And the Latino Society of OPPD will participate in the parade on Saturday, May 7th. And in addition, the LSO will provide a booth on carriers, OPPD carriers during the event. Give me 1 second here. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. I want to make sure I have all of my notes in front of me. And this is a really interesting, heartwarming effort. On Friday afternoon, March 4th, a few employees got the word that one of our colleagues, Oleg Liss, who's a senior corporate accountant at OPPD, he was trying to help family members who were back in the Ukraine with much needed supplies. And OPPD, as always, we responded to the call. And through Robin Keller, Melissa Ditch, and Lauren Ditch, who are members of the OPPD Employee Resource Group of Empowering Working Families and Global Connections, they assembled a plan to accept donations. And within only 48 hours, we were able to gather a lot of enthusiasm around OPPD employees, and they provided more than 1,500 items, ranging from sleeping bags to wound care kits. We drove those items down to Lincoln, to a big truck that was due in Chicago on Monday, March 7th, and from there the supplies were shipped to Ukraine. This really shows the passion to serve, and really that sometimes it doesn't really take that much time to plan an event. This is something that happened right away, and the need was evident, and our teams responded to the call. Next slide, please. This is a little bit of a very, very important opportunity for me to talk about the great work that OPPD does. We oftentimes don't talk about this, but I think it's important for us to share with the public what we, OPPD, are being recognized for. OPPD received the 2021 Utility Customer Champion Award from Escalent. And this was for a focus on its customers, communities, and the environment throughout the pandemic. And this has elevated our customer engagement. Escalent is a top human behavior and analytics advisory firm that specializes in industry that are facing disruption, like ours. And OPPD was one of 45 winners out of 140 electric and natural gas utilities that were considered nationwide. So we are among a very good group of good customer engagement utilities, and it's fantastic that we were recognized by Escalent. And the last slide that I have, this is our in memoriam, remembering those we lost. Michael Toms was electrocuted on July 10, 1974, while working on a transformer near Elmwood, Nebraska. Michael was 29 years old at the time of his death and had been with OPPD for 5 years. He was also a veteran of the U.S. military. Michael was survived by his parents, his grandparents, and his sister. So we remember Michael and everybody else who has passed while serving our customer owners. And that concludes my president's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fernandez. Okay, at this time, we're going to take public comment. As a reminder, we're going to take WebEx comments first and then in-room comments. Do any members of the public have comments on other items of district business? Please send a chat to the meeting host or use the hand raise feature in WebEx. Telephone users can press *3 to raise their hands. Listeners, do we have any requests to chat?
Ellen Vavolka and Francis Mendenhall have raised their hand.
All right. Mr. Volka, Ms. Mendenhall, would you like to address us? We cannot hear you yet. Let me make sure that they are unmuted, please.
We have sent a request to unmute. Mr. Volka and Ms. Mendenhall, you should see a pop-up which will ask you to unmute, as you see on the screen.
Oh, I think that you had unmuted and then now you're muted again.
I will send one more request to unmute, so hopefully you'll see that to go ahead and unmute. There we go.
Did it work?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you.
This is Frances Mendenhall, and I listened in on the committee meetings Tuesday, and so I got nothing but good things to say about the people who have done so much good work on clean energy. The board members, the more senior ones who have been at it longer and really are deeply grounded in all of the nitty gritty of it, and the less recent members to join the board who are getting there fast. I thank you. I heard from some members of management whose names were not familiar with me yet, but I want to get to know you, and I appreciate what you're doing for clean energy. The second thing I want to talk about is LB 1045, which some of us call the governor's attempt to take the public out of public power, to be blunt. I know many people in this room went to the legislature, the committee hearing, to testify against this bill. And I thank you. I had done it myself, but I was out of town. But I did figure out something I could do to help yesterday and today. I got with Dr. Corbin and got up to speed on the status of that bill. And so I could call well, it was text my state senator and prompt others to do the same. So we got the message out on a list today, and it's going to be going out to a larger list tomorrow. I know of 5 people who have contacted their member of the legislature so far, and I expect that there will be others. It's really important to keep the public in public power. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the comments. It looks like Dr. Corbin's also raised his hand. Can we go ahead and unmute him?
You hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. David Corbin, 1002 North 49th Street. Energy Committee Chair for Nebraska Sierra Club. First of all, I want to thank you for all the charitable work that you've been involved with. It's a real help to the community and to Ukraine. I appreciated the presentation as we keep getting updates on the pathways to decarbonization, and like the fact that you have established the Trade Allies program, which helps to address some of the exaggerated advertising that's been on social media. But I also want to say that some people don't know about the Trade Allies, and I think they would qualify. So I hope you spread the word further so that you can add to to those lists. And I again encourage that as you talk about economic development, that you always make sure that the economic development is in line with your pathways to decarbonization. Really like the Greener Together. You'll be giving, OPPD is giving a presentation on the 24th of March to the Missouri Valley Group Sierra Club. And one of the topics is Greener Together. I did write that survey that's been mentioned. It's again, it's not Nebraskans for Solar, but it was the Nebraska Sierra Club that wrote the survey that helped you to make some of the changes, and I really appreciate that. As a matter of fact, if you can share, once you have the promotional materials to try to get more people to sign up, we'd be glad to share that widely on our social media and with other groups that might want to get involved as well. Well, only one caution I have about the Greener Together that I ask you to consider, it could be perceived as a pay to play. And so I was hoping that maybe you might consider that there would also be some representatives from low income organizations that would be able to weigh in on some of the voting on who gets funded in those projects. Some time ago, they talked about $5,000 solar rebates for 50 projects, but I never heard anything more. I didn't know if they'd all been allocated or not. I'd like to hear about that sometime.
30 seconds.
And then also to build on what Dr. Mendenhall said, we're behind you all the way on LB 45 and some of those amendments to it. So thank you for being part of that.
All right, thank you for your comments. Okay, it looks like we have Mr. Begley at the Civic Center.
Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
David Begley, 4611 South 96th Street, customer owner. I want to briefly rebut the CFO's misleading comments from the last meeting. He asserted that the cost curve of tech will go down for wind and solar. Well, what if that's wrong? Right now, Rystad Energy reports that photovoltaic modules have increased 50% in the second half of 2021. Both wind turbines and solar rely on rare earth minerals such as lithium and cobalt. Lithium has gone up in 1 year from $13,400 a ton to $76,700. As the entire U.S. utility industry pursues net carbon zero, you're going to have a demand supply crunch. The CFO asserted that the OPPD service area population will increase. Well, it only grew 2% in 2020. Sadly, Nebraska and Omaha just do not grow at a very rapid rate. At Director Moody's campaign event, he let slip that apparently there's some kind of pro forma floating around about triple revenue for OPPD. Well, if you triple rates, like I think you're going to have to, yeah, your revenue will go up. But if you think your demand is going to go up that much, you're wrong. The CFO said 28 billion won't be borrowed in 1 year, right? But you're going to have to borrow it at some point. Rates are only going to go up this year. Fed has already increased rates 1%, or will increase rates 1%. Financing, the CFO said cash from operations will fund this CapEx. Well, you only earned, or your net income was less than 10% in 2020, and you lost $41 million in the first half of 2021. I'm here to help you. I have a proposed resolution which will be attached to this, and I'll give you the critical paragraphs. Whereas at page 61, OPPD is going to spend at least $28 billion by 2050 to achieve net carbon zero, whereas life on planet Earth in the year 2100 is dependent upon OPPD spending at least $28 billion to achieve net carbon zero by 2050. Whereas OPPD is proud of its commitment to save the planet Earth and desires to fully inform the public of its good work. So I suggest that you put, or the resolve paragraph is Lisa Olson's going to put this in your next outlet of publication, and you spend at least $100,000 with local media to tell the public how you're going to spend $28 billion and you're going to save planet Earth. Next slide here. Ambassador John Kerry has stated that almost 90% of the planet's global emissions come from outside the U.S. borders. That problem, we could go to zero, the United States tomorrow, and the problem isn't solved. So really what you're engaged in here is a giant virtue signaling and Keynesian money spending scheme. And last—
Sir, your time's up. Please return to your seat at this time.
Well, okay, but I mean, temps have been flat for 30 years.
At this point, you're out of order. Would you like me to have security remove you? CFO Fernandez, or CEO Fernandez, excuse me, would you like to make any comments about this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bogner. Really quick, so thank you, Mr. Begley. Your comments, we've heard them many times, and I appreciate you coming to the meeting and sharing them again. Really, it's really important for us to remember that OPPD, our OPPD Board of Directors, govern our utility through a set of strategic directives, right? And we have many of them with strategic goals. One of them is that our goal to be net zero carbon by 2050. It's a strategic goal. It's not a plan. The board has not made any decisions around that goal. But just like that goal, we have a goal to be 20%, for our rates to be 20% below the regional average. We also have a strategic goal for our reliability to be for our SAIDI, which is our system average duration interruption index, to be below 90 minutes. We have a strategic goal to be in the top quartile of for customer service. So on and on and on about all of these strategic goals that the board has. We have not made all of those investments that need to be made all at once. And that's one of the beauties of having long-term planning, where we have time to adjust and figure out where we go. Clearly, a lot of these goals conflict with one another, right? Increasing our reliability costs money, and it may come as a trade-off with rates. And virtually every strategic directive we have has these trade-offs. So I would say that's our pathways to decarbonization is one of, it's a response to one of 15 strategic directives we have. Mr. Begley said, what if cost of generation doesn't go down? Well, we have time to adapt. But what if it does? What if cost of coal and cost of gas goes up? Well, we'll adjust. This is one of the reasons why the board will continue to make these decisions on a timely manner. What if our population doesn't grow as much as we expect it to grow? Well, we will adjust and we will make those changes. By the way, 2% annual growth in the Omaha region it's actually a pretty healthy growth. 2% per year over 30 years. It equates to a really big growth. And by the way, the load growth that we're experiencing in the region does not only come from people moving into Nebraska, into our region. I would say the majority of our load growth is coming from existing people who already live in our service territory, who are using electricity a lot more than they used to use in the past. We have big companies coming into our service territory, utilizing a lot more of our services. Why? Because our services are reliable, they are affordable, and the region is competitive from an economic perspective. So there are many factors that play into this. I would close by saying it is a challenge for all of us at OPPD and for our board to figure out how can we continue to move the utility in the right way, putting all of these strategic directives and strategic goals in front of us so that we can continue to make progress at a time without really ignoring any of the aspects of the utility. Sustainability being one of them, very clearly, but reliability and affordability and customer satisfaction just as important as the others. So those are my remarks.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, it looks like we have maybe one other WebEx attendee that would like to make comments.
Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
My name is Brian Rainey. I live in Gretna. I would just like to add on to this pathways to decarbonization. I've been in on a few of those meetings, and quite honestly, I am disappointed in the path that you guys seem to be planning on taking. Trying to rely on solar and wind is not going to get us where you want to be. You guys closed Fort Calhoun and carbon emissions skyrocketed. If you guys had not closed Fort Calhoun and it had still been operating this last February in 21, we would not have had to have rolling blackouts to control our power system. If you really are serious about climate change and you are serious about reducing carbon emissions, you need to start rebuilding nuclear, and you need to do it now. If you do it now, you get started, you get with the company like NewScale with their small modular reactor their design has been approved by the NRC. You can have operating reactors in 10 years, providing power to our grid at a reasonable cost and already achieve your net zero carbon to the point where it's almost zero carbon before even 2040. I just think it's dishonest and ridiculous and ludicrous and asinine to think that you can replace a nuclear power plant with low carbon emission, with no carbon emission, with a solar farm that has a capacity factor of less than 25% that would take up over 10,000 acres to produce 1,000 megawatts for maybe 2 to 3 hours during the day, at best. That's all I really have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Fernandez?
Chair Bogner, I would like to address these, and for this, I'm going to ask Mr. Brad Underwood, Senior Director of Systems Transformation, to provide a little bit of context around this.
Yeah, well, good afternoon. I think one of the things that would be good is to make sure that people are aware of the emissions volumes that the district is responsible for and the publication of those emissions volumes. If you're able to go to OPPD.com, you can see the profile of the emissions over time. And the emissions did not increase drastically when Fort Calhoun was closed. That information is publicly available, and I would generally characterize it as flat to declining over time, depending on the year that you're comparing. The other thing I think was important to note is the decarbonization analysis was a dual optimization on a number of fronts. One was how do we reduce carbon emissions throughout the community and engage the community in doing that? And how do we do that most efficiently from an economics perspective? And really that was the crux of the analysis. We do watch small modular reactor and the advancements in those technologies. There are a number of models that we look at, but the last nuclear reactor that was built in the United States, I'm going off memory, is $30 billion for 2,300 megawatts approximately. And that's a substantial cost profile that exceeds almost any other resource that you could honestly possibly imagine. So when we look at that, we take the learnings from the industry, we evaluate where the technologies are at, and we identified in the decarbonization study that hydrogen is a high priority monitoring situation for us. Small modular reactors are definitely something that we will continue to monitor and participate as best we can to advance the technology's capabilities, their cost profiles, and the operating experience that they have. And there's no change to our commitment to doing that.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any other requests to chat? No? Ms. Henry?
I do not see any additional hand raises. And Brett, can you confirm chat requests?
Do not have any additional chat requests.
Thank you. At this time, we will adjourn. See you next month.